federal litigator, Alexis Rosenberg. Alexis, thank you for coming on with us today. Now, we wanted to reach out to you specifically because this takes place in Florida. Obviously, that is where you are. That's where you practice. Immediately, what comes to mind is Florida man. I mean, that's something everybody always says. But this almost takes it to a new level, attacking a school resource officer. I mean, what do you make of that?
Well, it wasn't just Florida man. We had Florida woman too, because the mother was also involved in this incident. I think she was the initial one that made the aggressive contact before the husband jumped in at that point. This is what next level, like you said. I mean, we're taking this disagreement over the son actually committing a battery by shoving a girl, and then it just went wild.
If we start at the beginning, before everything went wild, as you said, these two parents were at the school because their son had apparently pushed another girl, obviously gotten violent with her, and is facing a battery charge. So that's, physical activity of some sort there. It gets me wondering if maybe there's violence that runs as a thread throughout this family.
That was my thought. I mean, how far does the apple fall from the tree? I mean, because we have parents, both of them, who think that this is a normal reaction to get physical and violent to a situation of talking. They were brought in to discuss how they were going to handle and what they were going to do about their son committing a battery.
And I mean, to start their talking, and obviously the parents are a bit defensive about this. Their son is going to face a charge that's really serious, but they do get kind of heated in their conversation. And the school resource officer actually even asked them to leave, but they continue with their yelling. What do you make of this part? I believe you had talked to me a bit about trespassing. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not unusual when parents are brought into school to talk, because of some behavior that the school finds to be problematic. It's not a happy situation. And sometimes, unfortunately, it does get a little heated. So, usually how the school will handle it if it gets heated is ask the parents to leave. I mean, they'll try other measures leading up to that. Ask them to leave. Once you are asked to leave a premise by somebody that has the right to ask you to leave, you need to leave or you can be charged with trespassing. And they didn't, and then they took it because they've been charged with a hate crime as well. I mean, that's an enhancer that could make them face substantial prison time.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, if you see this trespassing situation, a lot of things are getting heated at a school. I mean, definitely something to keep an eye on. But I don't know how often we're seeing the parents, mom and dad, both rushing the school resource officer. The dad actually at one point wrestles away the taser, which to me is very stressful. Obviously, that's the type of weapon. The SRO then draws her weapon because she's in fear for whatever he's going to do. I mean, do you think that she reacted appropriately in these situations?
Well, this is an extremely unusual situation. I mean, this went from 0 to 60 very quickly. And we should keep in mind, this happened in front of this child as well. All of this went down in front of this child. I'm not quite sure if her pulling her weapon in this situation was the correct response. It could have been endangering other people around. But obviously she was fearing for her life. I mean, her head was slammed into the wall. She was knocked, off balance. She sought medical treatment for a potential concussion. So I think she was fearing for her life, and a reasonable person would say it was correct. Now, whether it was the school protocol is a different situation.
Yeah, you're right. That'll be something to follow and see whether she did. I mean, the police officers have since spoken out about this and said, we're glad that these two parents were arrested. Obviously, there were some sort of danger, disruption to say the least. Now, the charges that they're facing, I kind of want to go through them. Battery on law enforcement officer, that one makes sense. Resisting with violence also makes sense. This one was interesting to me. Disruption of school function, trespassing on school campus, armed robbery, grand theft. Do those charges make sense to you?
Well, so the resisting they generally always throw in because that's kind of questionable whether they were resisting after they were arrested. So that one most likely will get thrown out. Obviously, like you said, the battery on the law enforcement. I mean, based on the body cam, I think that's gonna stand. The disruption of school was basically because then other resources had to be pulled away. Is that. Those are all lessers. I mean, the hate crime because of the slur apparently before for the father. That's an interesting one. That's an enhancement, like I said before. I think that what's going to end up happening is my magic ball, crystal ball is the battery on the Leo is going to stand, or the law enforcement. They're going to drop the resisting. They'll probably drop the disruption, and then I'm not sure how they're going to handle the slur, the hate crime aspect. They may drop that and then just give him a higher sentence related to that battery, and then the grand theft as well. I mean, the grand theft is interesting because we're talking about the taser.
That is interesting. Not something you usually see. I mean, I cover a lot of body cams here, and I don't think I've ever seen a person, let alone a parent at a school, steal a taser. So that's definitely one to remember. It also kind of gets me thinking the fact that we have this body camera video just for us to watch it in the public. But when it comes time for court, we have this all on camera. Plus, in schools, there's oftentimes a security camera video because they need to make sure if there's a threat in the school, which in this case there was. Then we have teachers who are nearby, people who can hear. I mean, does that make for a very strong case for the prosecution to uphold these charges against both parents?
You're exactly right. When you have video, it does make for a much stronger case. I mean, also, we need to put a message out that you can't go into your child's school and act in with this behavior, because it wasn't just that resource officer that they were potentially endangering. This could have turned deadly. It really could have, very quickly. And to behave like this in front of your child, I wouldn't be surprised if there was maybe some sort of investigation opened up into, like you mentioned before, the home life and what was going on in that home, because this is a very fast fuse with two people, and what is going on in that home does really need to be investigated. And I'm not sure if these parents have prior arrests either.
That's interesting you brought up investigation because I'm sure, as you pointed out, they're going to want to take a look at what their life is like at home. But there is an investigation into the mother because I don't know if it's ironic or what, but she works at the school district in the kindergarten area. That is crazy to me. I mean, first of all, a mom being involved in this is wild. But the fact that she works at this district, these are her colleagues, her coworkers that she's, attacking an officer in front of. Okay, that makes things a bit more complicated, nuanced to say the least. But what do you think about that? Do you think she could lose her job for committing this act at her workplace?
Potentially she could, and most likely she should. And we should really look into the fact whether she's equipped, based on her reaction in this situation, to be around children, let alone small children. Does she have a fast fuse with them as well? Is that going to turn to violent or aggressive in some manner? I think that that is going to be a serious thing that the school district is going to have to look at. Now, we have teachers unions and things like that, so that's not going to be a quick decision. There's going to be a process that they have to go through due to the union of the teachers union as to handle that situation. But I am pretty sure that there is going to, if not already, an investigation, and potentially she may be on some sort of leave related to that position already.
Oh yeah, the investigation. I would think that the district is going to want to take a closer look at that. As far as what's happened with them, they were booked into jail. We know that the mom has been released on bond, but the father is being held without bond. I know that sometimes is in case he's a danger to himself or other people. Do you think that makes sense? I mean, obviously he's shown that he can be aggressive physically.
So I'm wondering if he has prior arrests or convictions because of that. But I think the reason that was triggered is because of that hate crime. the fact that he's charged with the hate crime, the fact that it happened in a school. And we're now taking the court system's hate crime allegations very, very seriously. And so I think that's why the wife was, or the mother wasn't charged with a hate crime. As well as it was the father who actually punched, I believe, the resource officer in the face or the head. So I think that is the reason that we have the no bail. But it's sending a clear message that the state attorney's office is taking this very, very serious.
There's kind of a through line throughout our interview that you keep bringing up is this slur, this alleged hate crime that the father committed. And you said the prosecutors are now taking this way more seriously. Does that make it an even more difficult case for the defense? The fact that we have what he said on camera, I mean, how do you even defend that?
This is a really difficult case. I would be very surprised if this case goes to trial. I think it's going to plea out. It's what they're going, what is going to get dropped, and what's negotiated. And that's really going to be dependent on, does he have any previous convictions? So as to what the state is going to offer, as well as the mother, the likelihood is it's going to be played out. We have a video. This would be a very difficult case. I cannot even think, as a defense attorney would even have a basis to go before a jury as a defense. I'm not sure. I can't think of one. So.
One thing's for sure, this video is very memorable. The story itself is super memorable. So one we're going to definitely keep an eye on. Like you said, I don't know if it's going to head to jury trial, but we'll wait and see. Alexis, thank you so much for coming on and breaking it all down with us.
Thank you so much for having me.